have the roll call of the members.
Edwin Trapp,
Here.
Frank Roll,
Here.
George Weiner,
Here.
Jamie Bowman, Vicki Keddy, Don Ryan,
Here.
Frank Myers,
Here.
Alderman Shonda Zerwig. Here. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Next order of business is approval of the agenda for the May 16, 2012 meeting.
I've got a problem with the agenda that I think we need to go over. Maybe since we've got a full house tonight, we can go over it again later, but there's a part here where it has that I made a comment, and it's not the comment I made, so I'd like to...
Minutes.
Pardon?
So minutes,
The minutes?
we're not there yet.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I caught it in time.
Chairman, I would like to request a discussion on the blacksmith shop on Washington Street be added to the agenda.
Okay, and where in the program in the agenda would you like that to occur?
I suppose on other business.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that addition to the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve it.
Have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Okay, I think it's come to the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to table it and talk about it at another meeting, if that's acceptable. I have a problem, there's an error in the
minutes before they were approved, needs to be amended.
Okay, so we need to amend it now. Well, let me find my copy of it. I didn't think it needed to be amended now because there's
You know,
it's on.
you can delay
Right, there's a
the approval of the minutes until a subsequent meeting if you want to take time to work on your.
and that's what I thought I just said.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, you can do that.
Right, didn't I? Okay, that's what I'd like to do then. Delay it till we have time to discuss it.
Well, if you have a proposed amendment,
Well, the administrative review down here, it says Commissioner Ed Luttrell questioned why the Planning and Zoning Administration was allowed to issue a certificate of appropriateness and requests that all projects requiring a certificate be submitted to the Commission for review. That is completely out of the context of what I brought up. I didn't ask that they all be brought forward. We have a maintenance issue that our planning and zoning has the right to give a certificate of appropriateness for maintenance, and the subject was a house that had $6,000 worth of vinyl siding done on in the historical district that I think was way beyond maintenance. So I think it took more discussion, and none of that was brought up in here, and if it's going to be in the minutes, I might have to refer to it later, so it has to be correct. And since it was, I feel that it's doesn't have any of the context that I meant, that it's going to take a little bit more time than me just saying I want to change it to this or that, the date, my name, or something. Is that understood?
we can discuss the issue under old business or other business and try and resolve it, but you're concerned now that the minutes do not reflect what you had said.
Yes, sir.
And you can't give us a
I thought I just did.
concise
What I said.
statement of it.
What I said is I asked the commissioners if they thought it was right for our planning and zoning lady to give a certificate of appropriateness for something other than maintenance.
Good. Let the minutes reflect that then, if that amendment is approved.
And I didn't make the comment that all of them, because I have a lot of confidence in our planning and zoning, but we were all under the misunderstanding, nobody seemed to know what maintenance was. So we need to clarify what maintenance is compared to certificate of appropriateness.
As a chair, it's not my, I can't approve it, but I agree with what you have said, that was your statement.
Yes, sir.
But I believe what we should do is amend the minutes to reflect that,
Okay.
and then add that item to the discussion under other business.
Sounds good.
Could we have a motion to approve?
You want to make a motion there?
Yeah, I don't know if I could since I brought it up, but I'll make a motion to approve.
A motion's been made to approve the agenda, approve the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the 16 April meeting. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is staff report.
Okay, does everybody have a copy of the report that I distributed? Frank, I think yours is. This didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. Those that are ongoing issues, I had put in red. And those that are closed out, I had put in black, so you would know the difference. These are issues that we've been working on within the district for the last 2 to 3 months. Just wanted to give you an update on those, especially the landmark buildings. There were a few that I wanted to discuss. 539 North Main Street, that's the 2-story brick Queen Anne on North Main. The court date is next week for that. There are several building problems that we hope to get corrected soon. The owner is trying to sell the property if you know anybody who might be interested in purchasing it. 151 Ziegler, the NHL property has been sold to Alderman Zerwig and her husband, and she have assured me that they are going to take care of all the problems, and I have no doubt she will. 161 North Main Street, it's the 2-story blue wood frame house that we have been working with for, I guess, the past 9 or 10 months. All that is left on this property is painting. I have been meeting with painters who are EPA lead certified to do the work since there is lead on the building. Jamie Bowman turned me on to Student Painters, which is an organization, and they're certified in lead and asbestos. And I met with a representative out there Friday. They were about a third of the cost as the quote that we got from St. Louis, and they seem to be very knowledgeable, very reasonable. They're everywhere. It's a national organization. She is based here in St. Genevieve. Yes. And these are done by students who are trained to do painting correctly. And she went over with me very in great detail how they would do this in
High school?
college students.
College.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
know anybody else who would be interested? They're very reasonable, and they do good work, and they use good quality materials.
You do it for credits, or?
I don't know what their motivation is, but they seem to like what they do. Maybe they love old buildings, I don't know. Let's see. 215 Washington is the blacksmith shop, and Mr. Hoffman's here tonight to discuss some changes he needs to make. We've been working together with this on, I don't know, long time, trying to get this off the ground. He's ready to get it off the ground. But there are some issues that the architect wants covered. 74 Seraphim is an NHL property, a vertical log that is currently vacant and has a lot of nuisance problems to the building as well as to the grounds. I've been trying to convince the lender, who is now responsible, I did some title searches, that they need to do something with this property. And I have not heard anything back just yet. 555 North 3rd, the brewery. I don't know if you've all been by there since the rear addition was removed. He does have a contractor doing the repointing and replacing the bricks. They're using the original bricks that were taken off of the building. It's a slow process. He's had 2 heart attacks since he started. I don't know if it's a project or Larry or what, but he's doing a good job. We had to work out the mortar mixture and get that corrected. I think he's got that down and right. 152 North 2nd. Of course, that property is no longer in violation. It's all closed up, and I hope to be able to contact the property owners real soon to begin that rehab project again. Let's see. .885 Market, which is the vertical log on Market Street that was burned out. She's trying to sell the house. I think she'd do better if she dropped the price a little bit. But of course, the property owner passed away last year, so it's in the estate now. It's gone to a friend of hers who we're dealing with. Oh, 299 North 4th, which was the house at the corner with the vinyl was replaced, and then we had the window issue. They have sold their house. Well, it's at lease to buy, and we are currently working with them to get the property brought up to current building code, which is not at the time. And the new people who are moving in want to keep the wood windows. They like the wood windows, so we're presently working out details with them on how to bring that house up to code. .132 Merchant. The house that was being painted, or the building that was being painted. There are a lot of improvements going on in town. A lot of people trying to bring their properties up to code, which is really great. They're making things look shiny and new and repainting. Just want to take the opportunity to remind everybody of the EPA certification requirements, that if you're doing any kind of work on a pre-1978 house, whether it's changing out windows or painting, doing any alterations on the interior, that it does take a EPA certified, lead certified contractor to do that.
I think we need that information in writing to the board members here and also to the general public, because I certainly wasn't aware of it, and I'd like to read it quite carefully.
Well, I just happened to print off just a few of several fines and violations for just this that have been given out the last few months for contractors either not having the certification or not giving the proper warnings to the families that are living there, to let you know how serious the EPA is about this. So I've got this information, and I'll hand it out to you before you leave.
Is that up to the planning and zoning to monitor what's going on around town, or is it just?
It's federal.
So the city,
federal and state, anybody can call them and request to see if somebody is certified or not. They'll look it up and let you know.
so it's kind of up to the citizens to call the EPA if they see it going on.
Mm-hmm. yes.
And that applies to owner occupiers as well as,
An owner-occupier can work on it themselves.
Yeah.
Is
They
there
do not
some
have to be certified.
kind of easily understood information that's available for distribution? You could make
Yes.
citizens,
I think there is.
so let's get copies of it.
Okay.
it's a type of thing that I think should be carefully clarified so that it doesn't spread panic over the community, and I think it could if it's not addressed properly.
I've been doing rehab on my house now for 6 years, and it's all lead-based paint. And I was concerned about it. A week ago, I went and got tested, and I'm a 9 in my trade. They go by level. I'm a 9 in my trade. I'm expected to be an 11, and when it hits 30 in an adult, they worry. So that just gives an idea, you know. So I was pretty surprised. It's the young kids. She didn't really go over that with me, but the health board will test you for nothing.
Okay.
Good.
Any other questions concerning that report? If not, thank you very much, and we'll proceed to the new business. The first item of business is Rick Schaefer, the First Presbyterian Church, to discuss the status of the Anton O'Neill House.
Mr. Chairman, and Landmarks Commission members, I am the Reverend Paul Cago, the pastor at First Presbyterian Church here in St. Genevieve. The church's clerk, Rick Schaefer, had to be out of town today, and he asked me to be here to make this presentation. With me is Becky Millinger, who is the chairperson of the church's task force on the renovation of the Anton O'Neill House, and Phil Eidman, who is on that task force as an advisor to us. The purpose of the presentation tonight is to acquaint the Landmarks Commission with the church's work towards the restoration of the Anton O'Neill House. It all began in November 2006 when the Presbyterian Church purchased the O'Neill House from Mel Thurman. The church was aware of the fire in 1982. Happened to have a copy of the newspaper report in 1982, the fire that burnt the interior stairway and much of the area of the house, and it is instructive that the fire chief, Jerry Roth, described the two-story home as a pretty much a total loss, in quotes. The house has also endured quite a variety of floods and the resulting damages from those floods, but the house held promise for the church program expansion, and that's why the church was interested in purchasing it. And that was in November of 2006, and in 2007, the church hired a new pastor, Junie Ewing, and during that process, the church didn't move too fast on the house because they were hiring a new pastor and were focusing all their energy in that direction. But it was in the summer of 2007 that the church had the house treated for termites by the H.E. Williams Termite Company in Farmington. The house was treated as much as possible, but due to the hazardous condition of where the floor is rotted and where the termites treatment therefore stopped right there. On the whole, though, as much as possible was treated. From 2008 until 2010, the church paid to have debris left by previous owner removed. They hired a local contractor, Jim Beckerman, to install flashing. The church held numerous meetings with the congregation to discuss the plans for the building. Hired Myers and Yanko to provide architectural drawings of the interior space reconfiguration consistent with the results of the meetings of the congregation for which kinds of programs they wish to hold in the building. The interior space would accommodate the church offices, a space for the youth group, food pantry, and a large meeting room. The church hired GLD Engineering to provide an engineering report of the structure. That all happened in those 2 years. It was in February 2010 that the Reverend Junie Ewing received a call from another church, and the church, therefore, now had to deal with the fact that they did not have a pastor, and they had to have some supply pastors, which was happening until August of that year when they hired me. I'm retired from the First Presbyterian Church in Cape Girardeau, and I now, in my retirement, have enjoyed working up here. And in 2011, as I was moderator of the church and their pastor, the elders appointed a task force to proceed with the restoration of the Anton O'Neill House. The task force began their work, and our chairperson here has a big binder of all the work they've been doing. Whoa. And it got to the process that they were begin looking at bids for the work, and after reviewing the first round of bids, the task force discovered that the initial bids needed to be rejected due to a lack of comparability in the work that was proposed by each of the bids. Then the task force provided the copies of engineering reports to all the contractors for resubmission of bids, and requested those bids again, and as they reviewed them, were uncomfortable with them and rejected those bids. At that point, the task force added Phil Eidman over here to assist in the bid process. Now, in this year, Becky Millinger became the chairperson of the task force as the former chairperson, Jim Baker, moved to Florida. And now the process began again, and the task force received at that point concerns from contractors regarding the safety during renovation, regarding the large extent of material damage, and the necessary foundation repairs. It is at this point that the task force asked the GLD Engineering to update their previous report on the foundation repair and on the structure of the building. And when that report was received, it highlighted recent discoveries regarding the safety issues, material damage, and foundation repair. At this point, the initial renovation job looked significantly different from when they started, and the task force moved to table further decisions for work on the house until a May 8th, 2012 session meeting of the elders of the church in discussing how to proceed with the project. Then the task force and Reverend Cable, me, and Brenda Schloss, the planning and zoning administrator, Martin Thoma, the city administrator, and Mayor Dick Gremling, we met on April 23rd, 2012, to provide a status report of the project and how we were, as a church, dealing with the information we were discovering and the things that need to be done. And from that meeting, the church was advised to be here tonight with the Landmarks Commission and update you all as a commission members on the goals and work and the process the church has before them in regard to the restoration of the Anton O'Neill House. The goal continues to be for the restoration of the Anton O'Neill House. Never has the task force or the elders seriously considered any alternative goal, in spite of the various rumors that circulate through the community. For example, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Tim Conley stated in a letter to the Landmarks Commission that the Presbyterian Church requested and was denied a demolition permit for the Anton O'Neill House. In reality, there are no minutes nor records that indicate such a request for action. Also, people who were members of the Landmarks Commission at the time have been contacted. They have no memory of the church asking for a demolition permit. Our church members have no memory of such an item either. Therefore, it's important that the record be clear. The Presbyterian Church did not request a demolition permit. The goal of the church continues to be the restoration of the Anton O'Neill House. The extent and changing nature of the work of that restoration is the causation for what some folks may seem or deem to be a delay in the project. Now really, the hope was for the work to already have been started, if not partially completed. It is sadness that we're here talking about a project rather than asking for particular plans to be approved tonight. It was on Thursday, May 17, 2012, that Brenda Schloss, a zoning and planning administrator, invited an architect from the National Park Service to inspect the Anton O'Neill house. And maybe you have that data with you, or the report from the National Park Service, but I'm sure that you have that information, and somehow we'll provide it when needed. Finally, it is of great importance that you all as a Landmark Commission be aware of the process that the Presbyterian Church must use as a church engages in a renovation of church property. You must know that the property of all congregations of the Presbyterian Church in the United States of America is held in trust for the denomination. When a congregation proposes renovation, the congregation must inform the Giddings Lovejoy Presbytery. Its offices are in St. Louis. It must inform the Presbytery of the church's plans and costs. The Presbytery must approve those plans before the congregation is allowed to proceed with the project. If the congregation wishes to borrow money for the project, the Presbytery really gets involved and must formally approve all loans and all encumbrances of the church property. The Presbytery at Giddings Lovejoy meets 4 times a year. Their next meeting is August 25th, and then it's November 17th of this year. Before the congregation goes to the Presbytery with their plans, the outline of the project and bid costs must be known and submitted to the Presbytery. As you hear of the necessary Presbytery process, you need to realize that the congregation acts far differently, therefore, than an individual or a secular business can act. Time frames are radically different. As Presbyterians like to say, we do things decently and in order, and that requires time frames that seems to be extended, but that's just the way it happens within the Presbyterian Church. Now, this information is thus given to you so that you realize the seriousness of the church's efforts, the time frames facing the congregation, and the necessary protocol for the congregation that they must use as they proceed in the renovation of the Anton O'Neill house. Thank you for listening to this report. Any questions?
I have a question that I started off with is, I'm very glad to hear the report, and I'm very pleased to hear that your goal is still restoration. My problem is the last part of what you addressed. What is the time schedule? The building has been sitting there ever since it burned for Mr. Thurman. The church became interested, purchased it, but the process has never moved very far beyond that point. And I understand what you're saying about the bureaucracy of the church. I've worked with bureaucracy for 20, 30 years. I understand those delays, but at some point, something has to be done. And what we need from the church is your proposed schedule. We have a very good report now on what your history is. Now what we need is what comes after that. And how do you fit your proposed schedule into the requirements of the bureaucracy?
Yeah. A part of that question has to be answered by the congregation and the elders. I cannot answer for them because they're the ones that make that decision. And I'm not trying to get into confrontational with you, but is there a way of, I know you have regular scheduled meetings. Monthly meetings, yes. But monthly meetings certainly should take care of it. But if it's anything more than that, can special meetings be held so that schedules can be approved? Yes, when there's need for called meetings, these special meetings are called to handle business, yes. That's what we really need a report on. What is that schedule? Again, the elders make that determination. Mm-hmm. And I don't. They do. But you said they will not meet again until August. No, that's the presbytery.
That's the presbytery.
The elders of the congregation meet monthly, the second Thursday of every month.
Okay. That completes what I was saying, is that I hope this is on the agenda for the elders and that we hear from them, from you, as soon as possible.
The task force on renovation reports to the elders every month. Thank you.
I have a question. In your report, I heard nothing about the historical significance of the house of St. Genevieve. And that's what we're here for. Over the years, we've heard it's ready to fall down. Now, I understand when you bought the house, you knew the historical significance. And through buying a house with historical significance, you should have knew the responsibility you took buying it. And I feel that you're forcing our hand to do something to speed it up because of the historical significance. This isn't just a house that's burned, that's rotted. It has a very significance to all the citizens, to the Corps of Engineers that built the levee to protect these houses. So it's fine that you're going, I know it takes time, but you knew in the beginning when you bought the house what it would take to save this house. We're not, I don't remember hearing anybody saying that you applied for a demolition thing. I've heard all the rumors. It doesn't really matter, but there is a very strict time zone here, and maybe your organization can't follow that time zone, but we have to. I mean, it's not like we can sit and let it go on, and something by act of God knocks his house down, which we have a engineer's report saying it could go any time. I read parts of the report. I've read to the point that it was too dangerous to go in the front door. So if this house should fall down in your time of assessing what needs to be done, this falls on the citizens of St. Genevieve, okay, of this historical significant house, So I feel that there's a big conflict here about time, and as a landmarks commissioner, we have to force it. We have special meetings. I think there's been more than enough time. Something has to be done. I mean, and we'll look what we can do to force the subject, and I guess you'll force it as quick as you can. But it's time. The historical significance is everything of this home. If you cannot do it in a reasonable time, maybe you should spend the money to shore it up and save it and sell it. But it's beyond question to say any more time is needed. I mean, do you want to make a comment about that?
I would like to make a comment. Can you provide the engineer's report that says it's going to fall down?
I didn't bring it with me, but I can contact you later.
Who did that engineer's report?
I'm not ready to state them facts now, but I have them.
It's important to really be clear on factual data.
The factual is, all I'm saying is, I'm not bringing up facts here, is I never heard the historical value of this house brought up.
But you just said there was an engineer's report that said the building is going to fall down. And
Is
I'd
in
like to
imminent
see-
danger.
I would like to see the report that states that, and you should have that with you if it's that important to bring it up. Because did you hire an engineer to do that?
So you're saying there isn't an engineer report?
No, I'm not. I'm asking you where yours is. We
Well,
have ours.
Okay, you
And
have yours.
It does not say
And
it.
yours
It does
does
not
not
say
say
it.
that.
No,
Well,
it does not.
the one that I reviewed gave stages to repair it. I'm not here to
But I'd like
argue
to
that
see
fact.
that
I'm not here,
engineer's report.
you will get that when we are forced to do something to get something done with a historical significant house. It's on the National Register. There's not too many of them in this United States that are on this register. I waited here for your speech to say the importance of the house. This isn't an ordinary house that the church bought and didn't know the significance to the citizens of St. Genevieve, not just to a religion or your church. It's just very important. And that's what we spend our Monday nights here going over and trying to protect.
Thank you for your opinion. Thank you. Other?
Am I allowed to say something? Brenda, what is, my question is for Brenda. What is the city's stance on the fines for a nuisance property that is a dangerous property to the city? What's the city's stance on the
There are
fines?
two ordinances in the
Because
city.
shouldn't they have been fined all
that-
this
that-
time?
That relate to
Or-
that. One is the public nuisance ordinance, and that would relate to violations of the building code. And and that's the one for which fines may be levied. But the city doesn't levy the fine. All the city can do, the staff can do, is cite someone for a violation of the code. That citation then goes to the prosecuting attorney, and the case is heard before the municipal judge. It's the judge that will determine whether fines are appropriate and to what degree. The code establishes the upper limit of those fines.
Has there been any fines imposed on this property?
No.
And this property has been this way since 1982? And don't you think that maybe they should be more boxed in to have to do something about it because it is a nuisance?
The issue of the building codes has to do with whether a structure is habitable. So if you have a structure that is not in conformance with the building codes, then you may bring it into compliance with the code by securing the structure so that it's not habitable. And we have that case on the house on Market Street that Brenda just mentioned earlier. It's clearly in violation of the building codes. You cannot occupy it. But it hasn't risen to the level of a dangerous building where its mere presence is a threat to public safety. Now, ultimately, that conclusion may be reached on any structure in the city. And then the city's option is to order the owner to remove or mitigate the danger. And that is done either by repairing the structure or by removing it. And that has not happened in this case.
And actually standing outside looking at the building, there is no violation that's noticeable. As far as we were aware until Mr. Conley made us aware of what was going on in the interior, everything was fine and it was up to code. In fact, it looked like it had been in the middle of restoration.
But inside it's not up to code.
But we can't see that from standing outside. We just don't go in buildings randomly to see if there's any violations. So,
I just worry that secretly they're letting it corrode.
I think that's the reason why they are here tonight, is to let you know what they have been doing, the status of it, and steps they have taken to prevent that.
Well, we have a quick code and maintenance of historical properties that is pretty plain here. You know, deterioration of exterior walls, it goes on. I don't think we reviewed it, and then we've got the fees and penalties, which is what I think we'll spend the next time reviewing and see if the house needs to be fined, and we need, I'm saying we need to move on with that. I mean, we need to, as landmarks, do our part of it, of the job, is to preserve and these older homes. And I don't think we've been doing it, and I think there's been enough time to have showed us some bids. They've got the contractors. I talked to a few of the contractors, and we just got to do our commission responsibility, and that's now to push the hand. You know, I have them right here. If anybody wants a copy, I was going to give you guys a copy of what we expect.
Thank you.
Any further comments? If not, we certainly appreciate your coming here, giving us the information, but we have reached a point where we need some really positive input as to what the future plans are and a time schedule for those things to occur. It is a very important house. It's not only a National Register house, it was nominated as a contributing building to the National Landmarks District. So the house is extremely important to the history of the town, and we do not want to see it further disintegrated, or certainly don't want to see it come down. So we'll look forward to hearing from you again very soon.
Thank you so very, very much. Thank you for taking your time to listen to us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next on the program is a presentation by Mr. Timothy Conley to discuss the Antonio House. Evening, Tim.
Good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
Good evening. Now, Frank, this is only 2.5 pages double-spaced, but I would appreciate being able to get through my presentation before there are questions or interruptions. Not as long as they had for their time. How long does it take to read 2.5 double-spaced? A few minutes. A few minutes, but I have the right to be here and speak.
What you have to say.
Right. The St. Genevieve Landmark Commission has been controlled by a tight group of elders, board members of the First Presbyterian Church for nearly 30 years. On November 1st, 2006, 3 board members of the Presbyterian Church closed on the purchase of the Antoine O'Neill House at 150 South Main Street. This house is listed as a contributing property in the National Historic Landmark District of St. Genevieve. Representing the Presbyterian Church was Sandy Kohler, a member of the church's board of directors, zoning administrator for the city of St. Genevieve, and secretary to the Landmark Commission. Lorraine Stang, deacon of the Presbyterian Church and lay pastor, senior commissioner of the St. Genevieve Landmark Commission, manager of the Bolduc Museum, owned and operated by the Colonial Dames of America. Jim Baker, manager of the Felix Valley Historic Site in St. Genevieve, owned and operated by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, member of the board of directors of Les Amis, member in session and board member of the Presbyterian Church, First Presbyterian Church. Sandy Kohler, in her capacity as secretary to the Landmark Commission, arranged for the pastor of the Presbyterian Church, and this is very important because it was never said that they filed for a demolition permit. They didn't even own it at this time. Sandy Kohler, in her capacity as secretary to the Landmark Commission, arranged for the pastor of the Presbyterian Church to appear informally before the Landmark Commission in 2001. The purpose, I was a new member of the Landmark Commission at that time. The purpose of the pastor's visit was to inquire if the Landmark Commission would allow the church to demolish the O'Neill house should they acquire the property. The commission told the pastor of the Presbyterian Church that they would not allow the church to demolish a National Historic Landmark contributing property. And it was in the comments section after the regular business, and therefore Sandy arranged for it not to be in the minutes. That's why they didn't find it. But there are some honest people that were on that board, and I'm sure if they were asked, they will remember the pastor coming. He was a lovely old gentleman. I received a call from Lorraine Stang on the afternoon of November 1st, 2006. Lorraine informed me that she, Jim Baker, and Sandy Kohler had just purchased the Antoine O'Neill house on behalf of the Presbyterian Church, and it was that church's intention to demolish the home and turn the property into much-needed parking. In 2007, the church paid Brian G. Williams, Pest Control, who's treated every one of my houses I've owned in this county, to treat both the church and the O'Neill house. However, Mr. Williams stated that he was not allowed to enter the O'Neill house. He was never, therefore, allowed to treat the interior infestation, nor was he allowed to drill into the basement floor and inject the area under the concrete floor and attack the subterranean colony. Williams was only allowed to pump chemicals on the exterior north, south, and east foundation wall. The house did not receive an insurance certificate for the eradication of termites. Only the land between the church and the O'Neill house was of concern. November 2010, the engineering firm of GLD and Associates was hired by the church to do a structural assessment. The resulting report stated that the Antoine O'Neill house was in imminent danger of collapse from termite damage. From January 2011 through May 2012, the church has sought written bids from Donzie Construction, Beckerman Construction, Meyer Construction, and Clements Construction. 3 of these companies were brought back for additional bids, during the ensuing 17 months. I became certain that church was guilty of demolition by neglect in early 2011 when I found that in 5 years the church had not taken any measures to preserve or protect this historic landmark. I began to investigate the matter to find how such a situation came to such a crucial point. I performed an audit of the minutes of the St. Genevieve Landmark meetings for the past 25 years. I learned that 5 of the 7 Landmark commissioners were not legally serving members of the Board of Landmarks. Some, like Lorraine Stang, had been serving for between 25 to 30 years, but had never been reappointed. Lorraine Stang served her first 4-year term and never stepped down when her term expired. Lorraine was never reappointed by the mayor nor the Board of Aldermen. Sandy Kohler's responsibility as zoning administrator and landmark coordinators and secretary was to monitor the reappointments and had never done so. The result was that the situation developed where commissioners were looked upon as lifetime appointments. Thus, Frank Meyer, Shirley Meyer, Lorraine Stang, and all members of the Presbyterian Church remained in power, though illegally, for several decades. I believe this was a deliberate act to protect the interests of the church, which operated in the heart of the historic district of St. Genevieve. This illegal operation allowed the Presbyterian Church to feel secure it would succeed in their goal to obtain their much-desired parking lot because they virtually dominated the only organization which could object to their neglect of the Antoine O'Neill House. After all, Sandy Kohler also supervised the City of St. Genevieve's only building inspector. She simply had to make that house off-limits to the inspector. This would also explain why the August Abishon House at 467 Washington, directly across from the old academy, has been allowed to fall to ruin. The Abishon House, circa 1800, is a vertical log colonial house owned by the late Melvin Thurman, who also owned the Antoine O'Neill House and sold it to the First Presbyterian Church. Jim Baker arranged for the Thurman House to for Thurman to sell the O'Neill House to the church. Did Baker, who does not have a real estate license in the state of Missouri, receive a fee from Melvin Thurman for arranging the sale of the O'Neill House to the Presbyterian Church? We may never know, but he certainly had to have been paid outside the title company transaction because David Weber would not have allowed it. Did Sandy Kohler provide protection for Melvin Thurman from prosecution by sheltering the Abishon House from my frequent, very frequent complaints when I owned the adjacent Old Louisiana Academy? We couldn't even get them to pull the weeds. Thurman has not occupied the house for a decade, and actually I just found out that he died in the last few days, so the estate will be wanting to sell that, I think, very quickly, and you will be glad to hear that, Mr. Rolfe. The house is also that house is also a contributing structure in the St. Genevieve National Landmark District and is in a state of terrible repair, like the Antoine O'Neill House, and has been so for equally as long a period. Clearly, there is strong evidence indicating that Sandy Kohler, Lorraine Stang, Jim Baker, and other directors of the First Presbyterian Church played a major role in the acquisition of the Antoine O'Neill House. There is also evidence that these individuals acquired the property with the intent to demolish the historic landmark through the process known as demolition by neglect. Anyone who doesn't see that 6 years is excessive to dribble and dabble and do what these people have just told us, and you buy it, give me a break. if you buy an important property, like a national landmark property, you're into that property. How many days did it take me to get a new roof on the commandant's house? Like the next day. I don't want to hear about how their processes are so long. That's most unfortunate. Get your act in gear. I am not blaming the congregation of the First Presbyterian Church for this act by their building committee. These members of the First Presbyterian Church were perceived as preservation experts and acting for the congregation with the congregation's full support. Laws may have been violated, and a vital piece of the fabric of St. Genevieve's French heritage may in the end be lost forever. I have today filed several official complaints with the Department of Natural Resources that are currently under investigation, and I'm not privy to mention those at this time, but I will in the future. The congregation of the First Presbyterian Church is therefore morally and ethically responsible to take immediate action, not waiting until August or December when they can easily get together for this or that, to take immediate action in this matter to ensure the survival of the Antoine O'Neill House. This landmark property requires immediate structural reinforcement to prevent its collapse, and then must either be sold or fully restored by the church. And that is up to you guys. You need to find the living daylights out of them and get their attention to restore this property. That's what we're all about. That's why we all live here. A handful of their members live here in our district. We live here and we love it, and we work our tails off to save these properties. If they're going to keep their church here, they need to do the same thing. If they're going to own property in here, they need to do the same thing. Thank you. You're welcome.
I only have one small comment, and that is the fact, Tim, that I think you know, I did not serve long-term on the Landmarks Commission the first time. I was elected an alderman and served as an alderman instead. So, and I've been on the board here now, I think less than a year, or maybe it's less than 2 years. So my total time is maybe 3 years, not decades, as you said. I just hope the rest of your data is more precise.
My data is very precise. It was Shirley that was on for an extended period of time. I was on with her. But I didn't extend beyond my initial appointment period. And yes, it's true. You were an alderman when I was doing that.
That's right.
So that I was incorrect from that minor point. But all the rest of them, I do have the dates at home. I can give you exactly how.
I'm sure you do. Are there any other comments from the committee? For the commission, I'm sorry.
I agree with Tim Connolly, the citizen, that this is what we live here for. This is what we meet here for. I fall back on the idea that they bought this house knowing what it was. Usually you research something before you buy it, and if you don't, you have to pay the consequence. They bought a home that is very important to us. The time zone is a long time. I mean, it's just not acceptable.
I thank you for that comment. And I do agree with you. It is time, it is long past time when action needs to be taken. I think to try and impose that purpose on the church is wrong. I think they've been very inefficient in their operation, but the intent of any of the church members that I have known over the years has been to preserve the house, not to destroy it. Now, I will agree, there were a few members in the church that wanted parking area. None of those, I don't think, were on the board of deacons or the,
Well, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
I don't think it does either.
parking
All I
has nothing
think
to
is
do
that
with
we
it now.
do need to proceed rapidly from this point
Yes.
and not dwell too long on what the history of the thing is. We're at a point where something needs to be done. And quit the nonsense about the past. Let's look at the future.
And is to preserve the home now. Sell it, make it stable, spend the money to stable it, and then you can have your meetings about what you want to do with it. I've talked to the contractors, their first bids, they kind of told me what they were. I seen the bids. They said if they take this, this, and this out just to stabilize the house, the figure. Most of the contractors were there when they opened the bids. They all were pretty right in line with the amount. One of the contractors that wasn't mentioned that bid on it, bid it all the way to completion. And they were all kind of in line. They've had the bids. If you don't do nothing, means it gives a bad taste in people's mouth, what your intent is. You know, the idea of a parking lot, the idea of all this past they're talking about, today we need as commissioners decide what we're going to do. And the only choice we have is to start finding the owners of the building. Like we do everybody else in the city limits, like we just started doing more promptly.
Any other comments?
If I may, Reverend Cabo, I do have the report from Al Wright, who was here Friday. I have not shared that with anyone yet since it's your report. Would you want me to make copies to submit to the board?
Let the task force make a decision on that
Okay.
one. They have to get together and figure that out. Thank you for asking, though. Really appreciate that.
And I also wanted to add that we had a long meeting with the historical architect Friday, and then had a follow-up meeting after the inspection on what his recommendations were, what he saw. And this is somebody who's been an historical architect for many, many years and has worked on many projects. And he started off with saying that, first of all, he wanted to commend the church for the work they have done in not tearing this building down as most churches would have done. And he felt that the work they have done so far was very noble. And that's the word he used, was noble. And in fact, most churches would have just gone and done what they wanted to because that would have been their right. And he gave some very good recommendations, and I believe that they took them to heart. It's something that the task force is going to have to review and decide which direction they want to go to.
When you have these meetings, don't you feel that a commissioner on Landmark should be there with you?
No, it was a meeting with the church and myself.
To a landmark, national landmark. You don't feel
Who
that...
paid for that inspection?
Nobody, the feds did. That's kind of a benefit of being a National Historic Landmark.
But you spent time organizing it and getting it going, and you don't feel like it's public information since you, in your office, did it.
I have meetings with several people on several types of projects, which they may or may not be ready to present to the public yet, and I feel that that is a confidential matter that until they tell me that I can share it, or it has to go to the board or some board for a hearing or decision, that no, I will not share information.
So you don't feel like you're working for a private entity that you can't share with the public, that the citizens of St. Genevieve? I didn't know it worked that way. I thought anything you did was public information. I'm sorry.
No,
Okay, that's fine.
unless you would like me to.
It's an interesting
Suppose everything-
discussion that I
Well,
don't
we
think
didn't
we'll
know that
resolve
this-
this evening, so
Okay.
let's,
We'll go into it more.
are there any other comments? If not, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Conley, for your review. having both the church's position and your position in the same evening is very revealing. It gives us something to think about, and as I say, we need action, but, and I'm sure that we will get some action from it. The next item on the agenda is a application for 99 North South Main Street, the Jean and Patisse Valley House, and we'll hear from Mr. Conley on that one.
Well, I'm here again. I'm Timothy Conley, and we're talking about the Commandant's House. Believe it or not, there are metal windows that were installed on the Commandant's House in 1994 by Bernie Schramm with money from the National Trust. And they're probably still rolling over in their graves. These, Frank, are the typical windows I always do. They are exact copies from Messing Planing Mill. They are the owner of that company is a personal friend after all these years, and I've worked with 3 generations of that family to do 6 houses. Anyway, they were kind enough to come and exactly, precisely measure the mountains and make sure that these windows are copies of the existing windows. Pardon?
I can't hear you.
Oh, sure. The original, we're lucky because Bernie didn't have them take out the original framework of the windows. That, with the little bead work and everything, I showed Brenda to it. And so the exact measurements of the windows you see will fit into that, and we usually make them a tiny, tiny bit thicker or wider because, you know, you have to have, you don't want to throw a $1,400 window away. You know, you want to make sure there's a little bit, and well, they have to work.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you got to ship
So, and they're made of fur, but I just want to assure you that they're not made yet, but they're ordered, and they are going to make a wonderful change with the kitchen and the other little maid's room in the back, because those are the metal windows, and they will now very shortly look just like they did originally.
So you're replacing 4 windows, Tim?
4, 2 in the maid's room and 2 in the kitchen.
You're replacing the sashes? Is that what
The sashes.
Just the sashes?
The sashes.
Do they have-
The framework
Right,
is still there.
That's fine.
I'm just going to strip it.
You're going to hook the weights back to the sashes? Is
The
that how they operate?
houses of this period do not have weights.
Don't have weights, so they're all
They weren't made yet.
no weights, huh?
No.
So this just put the stick under it when you raise it up, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
There were some real clever ways of holding them up without using sticks.
Without a stick?
With air conditioning in, I don't really
raise
open
them
them
up.
very much. The only windows I have that work like real live windows are the ones in the conservatory that we put in.
No weights. I
Yeah.
haven't got around that. They gonna have screens on, Tim? Are you gonna put screens on them?
No,
Just-
no,
just leave
because,
them
you know,
as they go.
these literally, they didn't have screens when they were
No.
built. So everything, even the little spacers, or what do they call them, are curved just like the originals were. You know, there's like 30 feet of trim that comes with them. I'm excited about it because it just grated my soul to see those. Every time, I just won't look at it because it bugs me. And, you know, I'm going to have to do tuck pointing. I do have a licensed contractor. I'm a licensed contractor for lead removal. So is Jim Beckerman. We were the only ones that took that course when we offered it in 2000. we offered it here in St. Genevieve.
That's what I understand.
So, yeah.
May I ask a question about the glass? Just
Yeah.
curious, like,
Mhm.
do they do anything to make the glass look older? I'm just.
They don't make the glass. I install the glass. And yes, I usually buy antique glass. I've collected glass from windows deliberately so that I have the sizes, bigger sizes than I need, and we cut those. Each pane is individually cut. And then
Because
you
I
have
just know
to,
it
you
looks
have to,
different.
you have to putty them in. You have to glaze them. Yeah,
And these are just single glass.
single glass, right. They are exact duplicates.
I've often wondered, what were the original windows in the rest of the house?
They were 12 over 12s. We
12
have
over
some
12s?
of them in the basement.
Yeah.
I'd love to show them to you.
12
Um, They're little bitty paints.
Wow.
They're 12 over 12. They're just like the old, any of you who knew me at the academy. Well, Frank's house.
Yeah, I've got 12
And,
over.
but this Frank, those are very thin sashes, and they're made of cypress. In Frank's case, in your case, they are extremely thin, and there's only a couple of them that have survived, but they are the exact size of the existing sash. And I believe Mrs. LaGrave, who was the niece of the commandant, she bought out all the other sons and everything when the commandant died, and she took over that house. She did modernizing. She built the new carriage house and slave quarters, and she changed the windows. And apparently there used to be tons of windows downstairs, but there's only a few that are left. They are interchangeable with the current windows. And they fortunately put the doors down in the basement too, so we have those wonderful original doors now in the back. That's kind of nice. It's really a simple project.
Expensive.
It's expensive. Nothing's cheap in that house.
Are there any other comments from the commission?
Y'all can come over and watch.
I look forward to seeing it done.
I do too.
Yeah. It'll be great on the street side, not seeing those. Yeah,
Aluminum.
yeah, and it'll be so pretty.
Makes me wonder how steel was allowed.
I have the shutters too, but I'm just not going to put them up until.
Do you wonder how steel was allowed to be put in there, in steel windows?
Did you know Bernie?
Yeah.
Okay, I rest my case.
He's not that persuasive.
Yeah, yeah.
No, Bernie was a con artist.
He was, yeah, I know him. So that's how.
No other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Mr. Conley's application.
Second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Then we'll have a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Tim, and
Thank you,
I'm
Tim.
glad to see you're using that, those good old wooden windows and meshing as a great contractor.
Oh, and they're moving to smaller quarters. The times have really hurt them. So this may well be, they sold their huge plant, which covers, I don't know how many acres. It's huge. And they're moving out of it. This will be the last project they do at that site.
The next item on the agenda is an application for 103 North Main Street, the Anton Clemmer House.
Chairman Meyer, ladies and gentlemen of the commission, my name is Mark Buckheit. I'm applying for a certificate of appropriateness to have the asbestos slate siding removed from the building and then restored and repair the existing clapboard siding.
Are you sure the clapboard is in pretty good shape under the rest of it?
Time will tell. We'll find out after, from there's a couple broken tiles on there, then you can see that what is there is in really good shape, so.
And I am very happy to hear that that's what you're doing.
Yes.
The only question, and that it is a question, not a statement, is what if they are worse than you anticipate when you get into that old site? What is your plans then?
We'll just have to play it by ear. We'll just have to either repair it or see what else we can do with it.
Well, repairing is usually the best, but if
Right.
not, it would be better to replace it than to cover it again.
Right, I don't want to replace it if I want to, or cover it up. If I was going to cover it up, I just wouldn't take what's on there off.
Good.
May I ask you a question? Is this your building?
I'm actually, should close on it by Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what the names were confusing.
Yeah, Susan O'Donnell currently owns it.
So you're preparing to rehab it already and fix it up. And I commend you for that. We seem to be having trouble with this and you're jumping right in it.
Are you looking to live in it as a residence, or?
No, it's currently 2 apartments, 1 up, 1 down. And we're pretty much got rehab apartments and redo them.
Any history why you think it was put the asbestos shingles on it?
Probably they got sick of painting it. Simply as a maintenance issue. My guess.
You might come across a few doors or windows that were there.
Maybe. I doubt it.
I know the interior's been re-sheetrocked in the apartment, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't
Right,
know what they're
right.
hiding, but surprise, surprise.
Right.
The rest of it, of the building is still in the fabric board, right?
No, the front part of the building, the original part is brick. And then you had the addition towards the back, that there's the addition.
This here's the addition?
That's the addition on the back.
And this is original, it's still clapboard, right?
Yeah, right, all the way
Right,
across
yeah.
the back with added, right.
But that's somebody else's
And I'm-
building, right?
Correct, I'm just buying the end on Jeff, the
Oh,
part
so-
that's painted gray, Ed, right
Right.
there, that's the only part that I'm buying.
Okay, okay, I thought it was existing all the way back, all the way through there, okay.
Can you clarify what you meant? I didn't realize this was an addition.
Yeah,
Do you know the history of what?
I believe there's a side photo of it. There you go, that's it.
Oh, I know the house, my next door neighbor.
Right.
Live all
Yeah,
closed.
I know you
The
know
brick
that.
was originally built in 1849.
Okay.
Then I think it was about a decade later, they added the clapboard addition to it. If our research is absolutely correct. I think it is.
Probably have family down
Yeah.
Mark, is there a basement underneath? right?
Yes, sir.
What about the back?
Yeah, it's full basement.
Wow.
It's really rather interesting. They have a cistern in the basement.
Sure.
The entire floor is herringbone brick. The original fireplace is still in the basement.
So the cistern is down in the
Cistern
basement,
is in the
access to the, I guess if the Indians were around, you could still get water.
I suppose.
Are there any further questions? I entertain a motion now.
I make a motion to approve it as submitted.
Have a motion to
Second.
approve. Have a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to commend you for just jumping on it. Good move.
I'll do something with it.
Yeah? Excellent.
The next item on the agenda is an application for 301 North Main Street, the mill.
How y'all doing?
Evening.
I didn't have the foresight to bring my paper with me, sorry.
Want to borrow mine?
Mike, you guys should have copies.
Oh, if you want to use mine?
I think I'm good, I can wing it.
I think you know it, huh?
What are you doing?
Just explain what you're doing.
First, you need to introduce
Oh,
yourself.
Charles W. Smith IV.
I don't need mine.
My sister and I inherited the property, and years ago, we had a permit to redo the metal. we did one side and the front side, which you can see from Main Street, and the other in the back was left original, which is the old aluminum corrugated metal. And all I want to do is take that off and put the white metal back around the building. It's basically just repair and replace.
Where you replaced the white metal, that certainly looks a lot better.
Yeah.
But I noticed the gable ends there are
Yeah, we'll correct those.
corrugated. You're gonna put.
We're going to correct that on the gable end, but I'm not going to touch the, I will leave the roof silver.
Yeah, understand.
Right.
What's your
Certainly make
intention?
an improvement on the appearance.
And then there's be three white, no windows in them, door, it's a regular roll-up garage doors, 7 by 8. Storage, to answer your question. Just, that's all it's ever been, was a storage building.
So it's all gonna look like this?
That's correct, yeah.
So you're gonna add windows?
No, no
Okay,
windows.
no windows?
Just doors.
Okay, just doors, all right, you said windows. I noticed you
There's
don't.
3 slide-up doors, there's 3 sliding doors there now.
Okay,
And just going to replace them.
so for rental spaces?
Rental spaces.
Rental spaces. I noticed you don't have a contractor down on your,
Just me.
just you, yourself.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Guess we can write that in there, huh?
Just out of curiosity, what is that thing in the center of this building?
That is where they used to bag feed. There was a
Okay.
bagger in there, and that pipe went up, blew down back there. Yeah.
I thought of a lot of things, but that wasn't one of them.
Now, are you keeping the Chuck's Quick Change sign?
No, I'll
there?
take that down, actually.
Come
That's
on.
long gone.
Vintage.
I can drop it off to you when it's hanging on your front door.
Historical signs of St. Genevieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was Chucky's. Oh, I see, okay.
And the siding you're putting on will match that which you previously put on?
Correct. Yes, sir. Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's no gutters on the building?
No,
No gutters?
I don't plan on putting any on.
Right.
That was only built in the 70s?
Yeah, I think it was. in the
Original?
70s. George, you probably know better than I do.
I wasn't there.
Okay.
No comment.
Kind of pretty on the backside, isn't it?
Interesting.
Yeah, very.
Looks like fun.
I'm telling you, it's gonna be great.
Well, now that George has got his fence up, at least you've got a better view.
Oh, there you
See
go.
all that trash in his back.
Come on, man. Watch out.
Well, maybe George will want to rent some.
There you go. Some more, move more cars in. Be able to hide.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Mr. Smith's application.
I'd like to change
Have
the
a
subject.
motion to approve the application, or a
You'd like to
second?
change what?
Oh, I'd like to change the subject.
Second.
Get your second.
Anybody?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application as submitted. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thanks.
Okay,
Chuck, I
thank
have
you.
a question for you real quick. What
Absolutely.
do you intend to do with them now? I mean, what, you guys have any?
Off the
long-
record? Is it off the record?
No, it's still.
No,
Microphones
still
are
on the record.
Nothing's off the record.
They, we'll entertain that at a different, you come see me, we'll have a cocktail. We'll talk about it. Thank you.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night.
Next item on the agenda is the citizen input or public participation. If anyone does wish to participate, we ask that you approach the table and identify yourself, and we'll listen to your request or information. No one there, so any other business?
Mr. Hall?
Bill Hoffman.
Okay.
Before you start, I just want to compliment you on what you have done so far on both that building and the other.
Thank you.
It is a major improvement to the community.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. I guess Brenda's give you the letter, email actually it was, that I got from the architect on the blacksmith shop building on Washington Street. He recommends that I change the design from originally, I also had a little drawing that I did myself because the architect's already done one drawing that I can't use, and I didn't want him to bill me for another one that I might not be able to use, so I drew a drawing them all, and it's kind of to scale pretty close. What he recommended, he says the roof's going to leak if we build it the way we originally intended. He also comments in there it'd be very hard to build. That part doesn't bother me, but the leaking part does, because the old roof did leak before we tore that addition off of the blacksmith shop, and it damaged several cars that was in there because of the leak. So what he's recommending I do, and this is what his original drawings were, was to elevate that last 16 feet 4 inches and bring that roof on up to the same height as the rest of the building. So like right now, the brick part that was actually the blacksmith shop, it's at a certain elevation, and then the 16-foot addition on the back that was bedrooms before that were replacing, it would be at the same elevation. But then the last 16 feet 4 inches, it dropped down to a one-story building, and that's where the problem's at. With the water runoff to the west, it would go up against the side of the old wagon factory that's attached to the west side of the blacksmith shop, and that's where he's concerned about the leaking, I'm sure. Yeah, think about that. Just so actually what it amounts to is the last 16 feet 4 inches, you just have to elevate the roof another 8 feet to match the roof of the rest of the building.
It's on the rear bill back here.
Yeah.
It's on the east side.
All right. And actually, I wasn't too in favor of this in the beginning. He'd come up with a drawing for me like this, but he had an exterior staircase. Well, I was going to change the slope of the roof from floor level of the second floor to the height of an 8-foot wall and back, and just slope that far and have a catwalk go across it to a landing and down. Well, either way, it's not really too appealing to me because none of that was there before. So by using his idea and sucking that roof up that other 8 feet and making it the same elevation as everything else, we can do that staircase and everything on the inside, and then it won't be seen. So, that's what I just want an okay from you guys to be able to make that change, but that's the only change. Everything else is gonna still be like it was originally.
So you're asking us to approve raising the roof on the tail end of the building?
Yeah.
8 feet.
It's 16.
Well, it's about 8 feet. I never measured it exactly, but that second floor has 8-foot ceiling, so I'm assuming you'd have to raise that roof about 8 feet.
And that's needed for exit out of the apartments upstairs?
Yeah, you gotta have a rear exit because of fire hazard.
Yeah.
And that's what was wrong with you know, if you keep the gable roof like it was before, you still got your peak in the middle, and then it's almost impossible to get your exits for two different apartments there. You'd have catwalks and landings and steps all over the place.
Bunch of exits on it.
So, you know, I guess probably the way with minimal change would be to raise that roof and put all that stairs on the inside and egress the building and back at a door in a location where there was a door before too. Yeah, you can see that door there on the left. Well, that's where the stairs would come down for egress.
This is about 67, 68, 70 feet off the road too, isn't it?
That building's...
It's 40 and 12 and 16,
yeah.
So you're sticking it way back there.
Right.
So it probably wouldn't even be noticeable hardly from the road at all, would it?
Yeah, with the trees there and everything. And the other building that I built, that garage on the other side, blocks a lot of it from that side, and Frank Nager's building too, so.
Yeah, I'm over at Doral's.
In the wintertime, you might be able to see it a little bit going westbound on Washington,
Yeah.
be about.
I'm over at Doral's a lot, and I've never noticed you had that, you know, had something back behind there.
Make a nice open air deck back there, wouldn't it? With stairway in it.
Yeah. Seems like a big expense, just a little more floor space.
Always gotta have the exits.
Right, the exits to make them, yeah.
Brenda, you and the building inspector, you've looked at this, and as far as you're concerned, it meets the code requirements.
Well, we haven't really done a code inspection yet because the architect has not drawn them up yet. Our first step was to have your approval on the change. That's one reason he's here tonight, so he can give his architect the go-ahead to draw them up.
That money doesn't need to.
I've discussed the project with the architect on numerous occasions, and he's coming along. Understandably, Bill doesn't want to pay for him to draw something up that could possibly be denied by Landmarks.
Okay.
So he would like some direction.
So anything that we approve here tonight is subject to approval of your staff?
Yes, and that would be, the roof is really, and the exit would be,
Doing a food pantry back in the part that we're rebuilding because the main floor of the blacksmith shop is gonna have to be storage because it's gotta be, have a sprinkler system put in it unless I wanna put 2 layers of fire retardant drywall on the ceiling of that, and that would just destroy the blacksmith shop. I mean, you might as well. Pardon? It's got 3 forges in it yet, and it's still got all the beams and everything on the ceiling, you know. If I cover all that up with drywall, I might as well pull the forges out of there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I might get some bids on what it would take to sprinkle it, but more than likely I'll just use it for storage and no flammables or anything. Any business activity would go on in the part that we're adding on or over in the old wagon factory.
Have you researched any historical variants, some of the codes? I know some of the cities are getting more lax with historical variants to the standard building codes. Have you looked into any of that about a sprinkler system?
No, I had Chris Monzo, my architect, he had a guy named Chris Hullett. He's a mechanical engineer. He's the one that come up with this as being a 4-inch fire protection entrance, and he got his information from, I don't know who with the city, somebody in the water department, I guess, but on that letter it explains all the water pressures and the gallons per minute and everything. That's how he come up with a 4-inch entrance. So, you know, That's all I can go by, is what he said. I've done no research on my own, that's why I got the architect. I mean, it's a possibility I might still go with it. I gotta get some bids, but I've heard a 4-inch entrance is pretty expensive.
But the item under discussion right now, I believe, is whether we go along with the preliminary concept of raising that rear roof by 8 feet. Anything else we haven't seen?
Given Commissioner Luttrell's comments about the setback from the road, I think that makes it a very doable project to approve.
And it's consistent with the building so far.
The same roofing material, the green, am I correct?
It'll be just the same as what's on the front porch now. It's like standing seam is in
Without seeing any more information, I think what we could approve as a motion is the concept of raising that rear section of the roof 8 feet. And do we have a motion on the, whether we should approve this or not?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a second.
Before you vote, let me make sure we know the motion. The motion is to approve it conceptually, subject to the submission of more detailed plans.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, we thank you very much.
Can I assume then that?
I guess I need to vote.
Okay, we better have a vote, I guess.
Better vote. Nothing you can.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, conceptually, we approve that raising the roof. If there's any other
So I can make the
things.
drawing, have the drawings made now and
Yeah.
then bring them in again.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate your time.
And again, I want to thank you for what you've done for the old buildings of the town.
I've already had some knocked out.
Oh,
These three kids.
Okay.
Gravel streets.
Yeah, that's the truth. Pocket full of rocks.
Yeah, you can
Taking
take
all
you.
my stuff.
John Stocko.
You did a wonderful job so far,
Thank you,
sir.
Supervisor.
What's the matter?
I thought, whose is this? This wasn't mine.
The last thing on the agenda is other business, and we have the fiscal year 2013 Historic Preservation Grant Fund application. If you've read through this, apparently there is a typical grant fund, everything reserved for planning and nothing for construction. It's been the case for the last 20 years, I think. Got to keep those offices full.
And what I have in mind and what Joanne Rentic and I have been discussing is to, I've talked with the gentleman. John Leith is a restorationist in the trades, and he's willing to come do a workshop for us on window restoration. And it's not expensive at all. The CLG grant would pay for that. And grants this year will go for planning and outreach.
Open to the public too?
Oh, yeah, everybody. And that's his cause for why he does workshops, is to train homeowners and future contractors. He wants people to be able to do this themselves. The article I'm giving, Saving Windows, is what caught my eye when I read that in a critical magazine. And from there, I contacted him, and he called me, and we had a great conversation. He's eager to come to St. Genevieve. He's heard of us. He knows the issues we have here are the issues all across the United with windows and preservation.
Where's his home base at?
Portland.
Wow.
The quote he gave me last year was $2,900 for one day, and that would include his lodging and travel, and an additional $700 for each day, which I think is very reasonable for a nationally known specialist. And so that is my request, is permission to apply for funding to bring this trailer here.
Yeah, you also.
That is something that is needed here, is the knowledge on how to save windows, because we're making some big mistakes by taking some of the better, older windows out and putting in windows that probably won't outlast the wooden ones. Now, and I have one other suggestion too, is that, and this would fit in with our committees that has signs. But one thing we need is a definite plan as to how to identify what historic buildings we have in the town. We have people come into town and they think we have 4 French colonial buildings.
Right.
The ones that are open to the public. And what we need is some method of saying, when they come into town, this is what we have. These are the historic French colonial buildings that are unique to St. Genevieve. And then, I'll tell you how I've seen it done. And there's a town up in Maine that has this concept. Now, they have a blank wall next to the downtown, and now on it they have a map of the city, and indications on it where those buildings are, so that you can, and a little handout that you can take it and follow that map. And then on each building, each designated building, there's a sign there that explains what the history of it is. But we've got vertical log buildings that are sitting around that no one ever sees and doesn't realize that we have them. And I think it's important, if we're going to be a historic town, to be able to let people know what is historic about it. And I think, the planning process is what I am talking about, since that's what the grant covers. I think we could figure out a way to do it financially if we could get the plan approved.
Yeah. I think that's important. I mean, I feel like I'm learning so much from especially you, because I grew up here, moved away for 20 years, for over 20 years, came back, and I had no idea it was that historic. And I think I'm a good person to be a layman from St. Genevieve. I mean, I had no idea St. Genevieve is as historic as it is, and I'm only learning it through everything that I learned. But I also think that people need to realize that, or that you guys need to realize that most people are like me.
Well, it takes a certain level of maturity to care, too. I mean,
Yes.
when you're a teenager and you hear that, you think, hey.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
And you see it every day.
But I mean, I think the signage would definitely help, and that's why I'm excited about being on this committee, to learn about that. But if there is the signage, like growing up, I always looked at those little wooden signs with the yellow lettering.
Yeah, routed in them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, something a little bit more elegant.
Do you think the owners of these houses are amenable to putting up signs? I mean, some I've heard are not.
That I don't know, but I
Put a
think
sign
that's
on my
part
house.
of the planning process.
I don't want people coming by looking at my house.
Well, you know, I would tell you, I was walking the dog towards the house over there, and people were like, "We are so lost. Where's the downtown area?"
Yes.
And I was
Well, we
like,
are.
Make a right, and you're gonna smack right into
There
it.
is a sign committee, and Frank's on it, and Teddy Ross and Diane, and they've come up with I think, a good plan for signs and placement that will help remedy that situation. It doesn't address the individual structure.
Well, and each individual, can't it be their choice? I mean, you could still have the map, but you wouldn't necessarily have to have it on their house. I mean, that's,
Wouldn't that be invasion of somebody's privacy if you put their home on a map?
Well, their home has been identified in a
Right.
document that's a public record. I mean,
Yeah, it's on-
putting it on a map doesn't, I think.
I mean, it'd be more difficult to find, so people aren't
Well, I
gonna
don't
be
want people
staring
getting
at
out
them.
touching the house or something, you know.
No, they're
being-
still respectful.
Being in the yard
That's
and.
just like Hollywood tourist stars.
It's like it's going to Six Flags. You look where you want to go. It's got it on a map with the
Because
road.
I was in Charleston last year, and this is how they do in Charleston, South Carolina. That's why I took
Oh, right, it's not big enough anyone can see me passing around there.
So they've
It's a
got
little, it's a plaque that goes on
Oh,
each
that's pretty
building.
nice.
You walk,
Right.
you know it because you know the plaque, the look of it. It's not very expensive to build.
And you can
Ron's
actually,
got an excellent plaque on his. He started that. And he had a nice article in the paper too about this.
Yeah,
So
I
it's been
like
brought
those.
up.
If you flick it with your thumb, you'll see the side view of it.
I think,
In Madison, Georgia, they have,
I was hoping for something.
it looks like a newspaper you pick up at their CBD.
Yeah.
And it's
I mean,
actually
they're
a walk
protected
that
from
All these regular
gives
practices
not
is that
just
plaque. and it's-
the map of how to
yeah.
get there, but a little history
But you know
on
what I
each
mean.
building
what,
you're
what,
looking
what
at.
would this be?
And some, they're all private
That's like
residences.
a
Some
address, like-
We could keep this thing.
people come out and greet you and talk to you. Some, it's just
Yeah, right,
another
I
part
was
of
just
the
wondering
day.
if that
They
was-
don't
I've
mind
seen
people
that.
coming
Yeah,
by
excellent.
taking pictures of the houses.
No photos.
Of course, this is Georgia, so,
now wouldn't that go under tourism? Wouldn't Stephanie Bell at
it's interesting.
tourism be more responsible to making?
Well,
I think it'd be a collaboration with all of you.
Yeah, but, I mean, wouldn't that be more of a
Here's a
tourism?
head-on. That's
She gets grants and funding.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, we could
I
take
think
that.
it has to be a cooperative effort between
Right.
the historic
So they have
preservation
description.
establishment, the tourism, which should be working with,
Together, yeah. 'Cause that's where our map would go,
With
the information
historic.
center, our board.
and
Right.
just general service to the public.
And at the bathroom, we could probably get permission to put a tour guide map there.
the problem with outside, like kiosks and things where you put literature is
Moisture.
moisture and maintenance and
Well, I
making
wouldn't
sure
say-
somebody keeps them stocked, and it just,
Well, it'd have to be a sealed permanent thing where you don't put literature in, just a map that.
Oh, you mean like kind of
Oh, yeah,
like?
you could
Like
do
in
You are
Six
here.
Flags, you walk up to
Right.
the airport, you walk up to the airport, and it's got a tour guide and,
yeah, we could do
I wonder if we could get a local artist to do something like
yeah, keep it in.
The museum is needing some updating.
that. So I'm well aware of that.
Huh?
School projects.
School project, yeah, there's
Art students.
Jamie.
Boy Scout.
Are you kidding?
But I think we need to, very good ideas, I
know.
think we
You'd
need
like
to write it down.
When I was thinking, I agree with the handout that was given to us.
Yeah.
Saving these old windows and the like, that type of stuff is important.
When does he
But
expect to come?
we are permitted to submit more than one application. And what I'm suggesting is that
Summer,
we look
fall.
into the idea of better signage and better identification of the historic structure. And ask for a grant on that to get
What kind of windows do you
that
have?
plan developed.
Right. So who writes the grant? Who takes the next step? We have to organize what type of signs we want and get a dollar amount?
The sign committee.
Get a dollar amount? Is that all we really need is a dollar amount, or do we need to present it? Have a
You need a
presentation?
description of the project.
kind
of, is it clear?
And then a
It's a
budget
yellow
breakdown.
asbestos sign.
I seen the plan that,
Only has some.
Yeah, no one has one.
Gentleman
you
had,
built-
Teddy
you
had.
bought that out?
Excellent plan, big sign.
Oh, yeah.
And how many, did he say 43?
No.
I thought, holy smokes.
13.
13.
Yeah.
Oh, I live on the corner of
13.
Fourth and Lehigh.
I mean, they're awful big to put near a sidewalk. I mean, are they gonna be elevated quite a bit?
Those are mostly directional, which will be out on the road.
Out on the road, also their traffic.
It's to replace all that hodgepodge
No.
of
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it across from like
Can we
a
take
Nice
down your
and-
sign,
like
put up
Daddy
this
Clark
nice
sign?
and
Road,
clear
across
cut.
from Hillsborough
Clean it
Meat
up.
Market?
There was 13 people walking past my house looking
Speaking
for
of
the square, the old brick. They were headed towards it.
They've been looking for new roofing.
I've seen
This
that.
is
windows
the
are
roofing that
Oh, I
I
know.
recommended.
They got all mad. I said, well, you could've got clear down to the ball field.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, our whole house.
We are
What
very
what material is that?
St. James. Terribly.
Yeah, it looks like
See, that's
it's
what
rubber on
you
the
bought
side.
our building.
It doesn't look like slate, it looks like
We had no
asbestos.
idea. And when all the asbestos out of there, when we walked,
But,
the windows would
it's
just
a-
fall out. They fell
Well,
out.
Jan, maybe you can bring your information in and we can try to stick with your format since you started it. See if we can put them on the house, see if we put them on people's houses. You know what I mean? I don't know how that would go, but if we offer to screw them to it. I mean, usually when you pull somebody out and show, oh, you got something nice, they go for it, you know?
Brenda included in her handout information on the request that we've had to identify what type of roof should go on the library. Her research has come up with this particular product.
And while you're looking at that, I had interrupted Ed when he suggested that we needed more, we had a problem with the minutes as to what the authority is with a issuing this certificate of appropriateness. And I think we do need to do some more study, but just a quick review of the thing. In section 410.020, page 2, it indicates that it is something that the commission does.
42002? 410.
If I can find page 2 here, well, I'll be all right. No, on that page, under the definition of certificate of appropriateness, it says a certificate issued by the commission. Now, that indicates that the commission issues the certificates.
Right, that's the way I read it.
And then on section 410.260, page 14. In reviewing certificates of appropriateness, commission shall, as a minimum, consider the following architectural criteria and design standards. And in section 410.270, page 15, a building or demolition permit shall not be issued until a certificate of appropriation has been issued by the commission. That, I mean, those three things, maybe there's something that contradicts that, because I just quickly looked up those things. But it seems to me that the intent of the ordinance, and that is from the ordinance, the intent of the ordinance was for the commission to issue these things. Now, we don't want to force more work on the commission than we can do in a timely manner. It's not the workload, it's the delay that you impose on the citizens submitting them. So we want items of maintenance to certainly go through. And it's the responsibility of Brenda in her position to decide when she receives something, whether it is maintenance or whether it is alteration and construction.
Well, I feel that if it's maintenance, she should be able to approve it because it doesn't need a certificate of appropriateness. But if it needs a certificate of appropriateness, then it steps into our realm.
Well, that's what I was trying to say.
I think the problem is where that line falls.
That's what it is.
It always
Her
is.
definition of maintenance needs to be a definition of, I feel, a definition of maintenance that doesn't take a certificate of appropriateness. To get a certificate of appropriateness, what I'm read, you need a vote from the commissioners. Clear cut. And I needed a definition of her maintenance, fix siding or something, I can see her doing that. But to say that she didn't need to get us because it was maintenance, well, you issued a certificate of appropriateness. That takes a vote in all the readings I've done. In all the readings I've done in the books, it takes a vote to get that. And what I've been seeing is...
I think that, I don't know, as I read it, that is the intent of the ordinance.
Right.
Now, it always gives you a problem, differentiating when something comes in, what is maintenance and when does it go across the line into being rehabilitation, repair. And I've argued that thing for 30-some years in the military. I mean, you never could, that line is hard to define.
Can we work on writing a definition and agreeing on the limits of what is maintenance?
Yeah.
I think we have it.
I thought there was a dollar amount there or something.
It was like 5,000.
This dollar amount means, I've read it and I researched it, and the only 5,000 I can find is if you're building something new structure that doesn't need a certificate of appropriateness, but it goes above 5,000, you have to come get one. That's as clear as can be.
I think you're right. It's on
Yes.
the last,
Yep.
it's on the right-hand side as you open your book, and it's the last sentence on the page, and I don't know what page it is.
Right. If it's over $5,000 and you didn't need a significant of approval, certificate of appropriateness, if you didn't need one because it's not in the, it doesn't pertain to it, but you go over that $5,000 mark, you still have to come get one.
Let me say this, we're not gonna solve that tonight, I think it's
No.
a complex problem. But before the next meeting, review that definition of maintenance repair that we have in the ordinance and see whether it is what we feel it should be.
And
And if it's not, we'll have to go to the
And the importance
board
of
to
it
change
is the public is more confused than we are.
And I am confused about, I'm like, well, who do I go to? I don't know who to go to about my home, because I know my home is very historic. I don't know what the.
Well, we gotta make that
Anytime you do something, you go to Brenda first.
Come to Brenda
It's
first.
Brenda's decision whether it's maintenance or whether it's.
Right, and then if it's maintenance, she can approve it, but don't put down, she approved it with a certificate of appropriateness, because then it gets us involved.
Yeah.
The vinyl siding I think was totally wrong. It wasn't maintenance. It opened our commission up to a bunch of trouble, and I think that's what the confusion's been. Now, there was another certificate of appropriate that was approved that I really don't agree with, and I waited to see if I got it today, and I didn't. So I'll bring it up later, but I just don't agree with that, and that's the problem with our public. That's what they don't understand. Why can he do it and I can't? He did it and I can't, and I got to sit here and go, vinyl siding up them. I'll go look, and I get up there, I'm going, I don't know. I come down and I get the permit, and there it is, a certificate of appropriateness, and I go to the homeowner and says, I don't know. He says, well, you're on Landmark, so I get condemned for not knowing. And I said, she has the right to do this. And he says, well, I'll just go to her. And I said, well, you got to go to her anyway.
Well, as I say, we are not going to come to a resolution on the problem tonight. And I think we all should be a little better informed before we start arguing about it.
Well, I'd like to.
I would ask you before the next meeting to go through the ordinance and the guidelines, see what's there, and then we can discuss whether or not that is adequate.
I'm sure Brenda has a description of what maintenance is. And
Well, Brenda does a great job.
Yes.
And I want to compliment her on the preparation that she did with tonight's material.
Yeah, she's always, so if she just bring her definition of maintenance, we can vote that that's acceptable. I'm not fighting the idea that she's not qualified to do it. What I'm fighting is it leaves a big gray area for the public.
But what you are saying is that all certificates of appropriateness be issued by Landmarks.
Yes.
But not all, but there is work for which the certificate may not be necessary.
Right, so that's not a certificate of appropriateness
Right.
being issued. So all certificates of
Yes.
appropriateness be issued by Landmarks.
What I hear.
Okay, that's what I heard.
And that's what you said down there, but it was put in the context that there needed to be some more explanation, because I might have to refer to that when we don't get this straightened out about maintenance and we still have violations of certificate of appropriateness. I'm not.
Is this your?
I guess the word maintenance should have been put in there. I mean, I'll reword it the way I think, but not everything that comes to you should come to us. You know what I mean? And everybody knows if it needs a certificate of appropriateness, it needs one.
I think it's gonna boil back down to what houses for what.
It's a maintenance situation, if it's maintenance or not.
Contributing factor houses, things like that. Identifying what, because somebody who has a 1960s home should not have to come to Landmarks to.
Well,
Needs
then
a
she-
certificate of appropriateness.
And these are things
They all need
that our
certificates.
committees need to discuss in detail. And you are certainly invited to any committee meeting that's held.
Definitely.
We need your participation, we really do.
We need your phone.
Yes.
But I think we've done almost
555.
as much damage as we can this evening, unless someone else has something to bring up. I'd entertain a motion.
I can't entertain most of the adjournment.
Is there a second?
It's very entertaining.
Really?
So will this be on the agenda next time?
I missed the.
Depends on the committee's work.
I missed it on the agenda, because I definitely want to go over it.
Is someone, if there's something for the board to consider
Jamie, do you want to?
adopting, it should be on the agenda.
Second motion.
I think there was a time in the meeting when I should have said, see,
I think it should be
I'm
on
learning.
there, because we've talked about the last 2 meetings, and it keeps getting blown over. I mean,
Well, I think Frank wants that, you're recommending that occur at the committee level.
What I'm saying
Drafting
is
of
we
proposed
have,
language.
we have made assignments for committees. We tried to meet at 6 o'clock this evening, but everybody didn't get the word or had conflicting arrangements.
Well, I think
So,
you got the word Friday night. When did you get the word when we were going to have the meeting?
We do need for you to look at those committee assignments, for you to get together, decide who's going to be the chairman, decide whether you want to be on that committee or you would rather be on another one or an additional committee, and recruit. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot of intelligent people in the city, and we need to get some of those on our committees.
Right.
So if you come up with a good name, bring it in, and we'll take a look at it, because we need to add the viewpoint of the citizens.
I've got one more question. I hate to drag this on. How do I make sure now that we're going to address the signage that you brought up, make sure that we get this filled out for the grant money for our signage, and how do we make sure we're going to do the maintenance thing? I mean, I'll review it and I'll print something up, but how do I bring it into our agenda? Was it too late for the next meeting because I didn't?
Don't you guys bring it up, you discuss it, and then it goes to our board?
Well,
Because.
I'm not exactly sure.
If there's an amendment to the ordinance, which is what you're proposing here, that would have to be approved by the Board of Aldermen.
Right, but we've got to get there. We've not even begun to get there yet. So our signage, I like the idea of setting up something and getting the monies together and get the bid together.
Well, that
before
was a suggestion on my part.
Right.
That we submit that as part of this grant.
Right, and I believe that's a go.
As a separate grant application to the one that Brenda's come up with, because I think that's an excellent one too, and I think it's more likely to get approved.
So what's the next step?
The one I've suggested, I think, is a good step, but I wouldn't be too confident that it would be approved.
Well, we got to do it. So what's the next step? Do you want
to?
Committee.
I asked Frank to look into it because he is on the sign committee.
Okay.
And see if we
Teddy
can.
Ross is on the sign committee.
And that's the thing about committees too. I mean, there are people that are assigned to one, but certainly any commissioner that has a good idea, get it to the committee, whether you're on the committee or not.
The sign committee worked real well because they had one goal. And they met and they made decisions.
all participated.
And
I've seen them all.
Very good. But it's that specific goal and limited time frame that makes the committees like that work. And I think here it's a similar situation. I mean, you've got this, let's come up with a sign plan that facilitates identification of our historic buildings.
I think that's important. Is there a time limit, Brenda? When does this have to be in by? I've got the paperwork. I can look.
Yeah, there is time.
Okay.
August the 1st.
Have we fulfilled all our government tasks to get the grant? I guess you've got money already to go on that.
Does the city have any funding to do that? I mean, because August 1st is, you got Jordan Beck coming, and you got.
We have money to do what? Fill out the application?
No. To do that signage ourselves. To have that printed, you are here, these houses.
No, it's not in this year's budget. But I think that's what the grant.
I just feel
the grant says.
We're gonna lose a whole summer of.
Oh yeah, it won't get done.
There's nothing moves that quickly.
No.
We had a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second?
Oh, I second it.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.